Hey everybody, Jeff aka GCurse here. Welcome to the Season 1, Episode 14 review of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. I hope you're all doing great. In this episode, we had a total of 6 cases. None of them were actually omitted cases that I already covered, which is nice. It's nice to have a nice full amount of cases to basically talk about and review. Excuse me. So, in the first case today, we had, or on the docket, we had the case of Jeremy Bright. I will get to all of these cases when I break each case down in the following sections. But so, case number 1, we had Jeremy Bright. Case number 2, we had the case of John Martin. Case number 3, we had Leo Koury. I always get that last name a little bit mispronounced, I think. Case number 4, we had the sad case of Michaela Garrick. Case number 5. If you like the unexplained, you're going to like this case. We had the case of Jim and Kay Tatum, also known as Tatum's House. And then we end this episode with the lost heirs of Dan Willens. Like I said, I'm going to break down each of these cases individually, and I'll give you my positives and negatives and all that. And yeah, let's get to that right about now. So for the first case, we had the case of Jeremy Bright. Jeremy Bright was a teenager who was visiting relatives in Myrtle Point, Oregon, during the summer. It was the time of the summer where the county fair was in the area. Jeremy asked to go to the carnival. He did, and sadly, he disappeared. He never came home. His mom came to Myrtle Point a couple days later to pick him up, and that's when she learned that he had disappeared. Various rumors persist about what happened. The police they want to take the position that Jeremy got mesmerized with the allure of the carnival and that he wanted to run away, but the thing was he left his wallet, he left his money and all that at the house. Some people think that he could have. He attended a party that was being housed in Myrtle Point during that time of the carnival. That he went to a party. He had some alcohol. It's believed that he may have had like a heart murmur, and he ended up dying because of that. A third, more tragic outcome could be that some local teenagers were harassing Jeremy and some friends who were at a local lake. They were swimming, and these teenagers apparently they had a gun and they were like shooting in the water near where Jeremy was swimming, and they ended up actually shooting Jeremy. And the dumb fucks, if they actually did shoot and kill Jeremy, they tried to treat him like a little fucking rabbit. Like, oh, we can nurse him back together, back to health. We can nurse him. He'll be fine. He'll be. You can't just simply nurse somebody back to health if they've been shot. They need medical attention. But the dumb fucks, they decided, oh, we'll take him to some shack that's out of the way. And they put some gauze on him, and they're like, oh, we'll just heal him. We'll just heal him. It isn't that fucking easy, and sadly, Jeremy died. To this day, Jeremy's remains have never been located. Okay, time for the pros and cons. Now, when it comes to the pros and cons, I've been trying. I'm not sure exactly how I want to do it. Do I want to do it just based on the video, the case itself, or do I want to do like a more in-depth production, analysis? And I'm still trying to figure that out. But anyway, the pros. Case presentation. Oh my god. They did actually a pretty good job with the time that they had presenting this case. They presented the story. They then presented several ideas of what could have happened to Jeremy. And they basically let the viewers ultimately make the determination. The atmosphere of the video. This is something I will always give the production crew a lot of compliments about when it came to the first few seasons. I think it was like seasons 1 through 3, maybe seasons 1 through 4. I have to rewatch seasons 3 and 4 again, but at least the first 2 seasons, they nailed that low budget atmospheric kind of feeling. The audio, narration, video, it was all perfect. The mother's conviction. The mother wants the people who did her son wrong. She wants them to pay, and I do not blame her. I do not blame her at all. If I had a son and he ended up disappearing, and that he ended up rumored that he could have been killed, I'd want the people who killed him. I'd want them to hang. Cut their stomach open, pull out their intestines, let them hang by their intestines. Make it as painful for them as it was for my kid. And then finally, the cons. Sadly, the case remains unsolved. As of this date, nobody knows, what happened to Jeremy. Nobody knows if somebody, who it was. And I think, honestly, it's been 30 plus years. I hate to say it. I don't think anything's going to happen. Up next, we have the case of John Martin. John Martin was a state trooper, and he was killed in the line of duty. Basically, he located a vehicle that was near a building, and the vehicle was it just seemed suspicious that this vehicle was there. John exited his vehicle to walk up to the driver's side of the other vehicle to get their identification, because, like, why are these people ominously waiting out here at this building? Yeah. For him doing his job, John was sadly shot, and he ended up succumbing to his succumbing. I think that's the right word. Succumbing to his wounds. Basically, he ended up dying, but thankfully, before he did pass away, he was actually able to give the attending officer who arrived, gave him the information needed to help locate the people that, and ultimately, they were able to locate the person that shot and killed John Martin. Let's see here. Pros. The actors. I loved the way that the actors in this presentation did a good job. However, some of the acting was a bit odd, especially when it came to the point where John Martin, the actor, was relaying to the attending officer what happened. If you watch the video, which I'm going to put the link to all the videos in the description of this video so you can watch it. If you watch the video, you'll see that John Martin was laying on the ground, his eyes were closed, and he was talking. It was more like he was in like hypnosis, basically. I was shot. I shot at the car. I emptied my revolver. It's acting. I understand that, but it looked like the actor was told, okay, act like you're hypnotized, you're asleep, and you're talking. Me, I can't really help but think that if I was shot, I'd be in pain. I'd be like, oh God, my family, my family. Like I would think I would be in so much pain. I'd be emotional. I don't think I could just lay there like this and, just instantly give all the information, without there being pain. But other than that, the actors did a pretty good job. Thankfully, like I said before, this case was solved, which I'm glad. Cons. The person who ended up shooting and killing John Martin, his name was David Wayne Mills. He refused to take responsibility. They had the guy. They have the guy dead to rights and everything. He's already been sentenced, and yet he still tries to push it off on his friend, on somebody who was with him. Oh no, he never did it. He never did it. Bullshit. We all know that David Wayne Mills killed John Martin. Up next, we have Leo Koury. Basically, Leo Koury was a real bad dude. He liked to he basically used several tactics to scare off competitive businesses. Leo had his own business, and he liked to basically scare the competition out of the area. It was either extortion, terrorism tactics, threats, anything you think that you could do to try and scare off a competing business. Leo Koury did that. It got to the point one time that he actually hired some people to go into an opposing, I don't even say opposing, another business, and basically they shot a kid and killed, I think, maybe two people. I know one died for sure, but I can't recall if the second person died, but two guys in ski masks came in and shot up the place, And then later on he went to a bar that I'm guessing that was really like a place that a lot of people who are gay that they like to go to, and he hired a person to basically go and I think break in and possibly kill another person. But that criminal ended up getting caught before he could do anything, if I remember correctly. Thankfully, he paid the price, and I'm going to talk about that in the pros and cons. Okay, so for the pros, the case was eventually solved. It took a while. It took a while, and sometimes that's the thing about these cases from Unsolved Mysteries. Sometimes cases are not solved like that. Sometimes we'll hear cases where they can be solved within a day or two or whatever. But then there's cases that take years. This was one of those cases. I like the way that this story was narrated. It was narrated in such a style that the audience actually felt fear. I felt fear, watching this. Like, oh my god, if this guy was willing to strike fear in competitive businesses, can you imagine what he would do just to normal people? Uh, for the cons, the outcome for Leo Koury. Now, when I say this, I'm not like defending him at all. No, when I say this is that a guy who has people killed, I think they should face the most painful death possible. They should die. They should die alone. They should die. They should die like execution, like in prison. Leo Koury did not get that. No, Leo Koury, like all criminals, I think all criminals are cowardly, are a cowardly little bunch. I think that they will run the moment that it's time for them to face justice, and that's what Leo Koury did. Leo Koury ended up dying in a hospital. Now you could probably say that Jeff, maybe he was in pain when he was in the hospital. He could have been, but then again, they probably had him so medicated that he didn't feel anything. He probably died, without any pain. And to me, that is like an insult to the people that he actually had killed. He had people shot and killed. Yet this motherfucker here, he gets to go to a hospital, most likely surrounded by loved ones, possibly. They doped him up, and he died in his sleep, most likely, and pain free, basically. And to me, that is an insult to the people who were his victims. Also, it may just be me. It may just be me. But they really did not make gay the production staff, the story writers, whoever you want to blame for this. They really did not make gay people look that innocent. They actually made gay people look like they were all criminals. Now it wasn't so much in the wiki, but if you watch the case itself, Leo Koury walks up to a person who is playing pinball. This is at the bar where gay people attend. This guy was playing pinball. Leo slides the gun over in front of him, and he talks to the guy. And the guy is definitely, you can tell the guy's gay. The guy's like, "I'll do it. I'll do it." I'm watching this. I'm thinking they're literally making all gay people look like that they're just stone cold killers. I'd make you a bet with the way that the social climate is nowadays, that scene would not make it on television now. You would have all sorts of lawsuits. You'd have all sorts of protests, people up in arms, basically saying, "Hey, gay people are not criminals. Not all gay people are criminals," like what they were portraying this guy to be. Yeah. But yeah, thankfully the case was solved. But ultimately, the method in which he died, I do not agree with. I think his death should have been as fucking painful as possible. Up next, we have the tragic case of Michaela Garrick. This is a missing persons case. However, I think it should be considered like a murder case because apparently during this time when Michaela disappeared, apparently other children were being abducted and killed. Anyway, Michaela Garrick and a friend were going to like a neighborhood store, and they bought some stuff. The friend's father gave Michaela and her friend some money to go to the store and buy whatever they wanted. The two friends went to the store on their scooters. When they left the store, the Michaela's friend's scooter was still at its current location. However, Michaela's scooter was gone. And when they were looking for the scooter, they found the scooter near a vehicle. Michaela went to go get her scooter, and a person jumped out of the vehicle, grabbed Michaela, and forced her into his vehicle, and he sped off. Oh, I like to acquaint this to like a trap being set. The scooter was the bait, the car was the trap, and the minute that Michaela grabbed the scooter, basically it sprung the trap. The guy grabbed her and kidnapped her. To this day, sadly, Michaela has never been found. People want to hope that she's still alive, and I understand that. But me, more as I just look at it logically. The more time passes, the smaller her odds are of ever being found. There is a person of interest in this case. His name is David Mish. I can never pronounce his name, but he's currently in prison, if I remember correctly. And I'm guessing that he's either going to be facing trial for her disappearance, or they got to wait till he gets out of prison. I don't know. I can't recall exactly what that all entails, but yeah. So the pros. This case was highly emotional, especially if you are a parent. Sadly, I am not. If you're a parent and you watch this case, I'm pretty sure it's going to pull at your heartstrings. Uh, a lot of people like to shit on children actors because they're children actors. Children actors. They are not professionals. They are not pros. However, for the amount of airtime that the actresses who played Michaela and her friend that they received, I think they actually did a pretty good job at their roles. I like to refer to this as having season one goodness. Basically, it's like I mentioned before, it's that whole production value and everything. And then we have a possible suspect, David Mish. Hopefully he will get the punishment he deserves. And then the cons, sadly, this case remains unsolved. I hope that one of these days that, this case gets solved. I hope that every case gets solved. But part of me also has to admit that, sometimes that just does not happen. And I hate to think, once again, due to the amount of time, it just does not look that good. If anything, hopefully we can get proof that it was that David Mish person that that kidnapped Michaela, and that he faces justice. We may never find Michaela, but hopefully David will face justice. Up next, we have the case of Jim and Kay Tatum. This is also known as the Tatum House. This is an unexplained case, and this is a case I'm going to be a little bit honest with, and I'm pretty sure that people will not like my take, and that's okay. That's okay. Basically, Jim and Kay, or Kathy Tatum's, as she's also known. Basically, they had a house built. Had a nice house built. They just moved into their house. A few months after they moved in, they started believing that the house was haunted. Kathy saw somebody walk by the bathroom that she was standing in. She thought it was Jim, but Jim was still asleep. Later on, oh god, Jim was doing some house repairs, where he was working on the ladder that goes up into the attic, and I'm thinking, it's like, this house is supposed to be just still brand new. Basically, it was just built, and he's already having to fix the ladder that goes up into the attic. If something needs to be fixed and your house is just built, isn't there like a warranty? Don't newly built houses come with warranties? I don't fucking know. I never owned a house, but I kind of figured that'd be kind of like a car. You have a house built brand new. I'm pretty sure you get like a year or two, like a warranty or something. But he was repairing the ladder that goes up into the attic, and he had his drill. Well, he put the drill down because he was called out for lunch. Kathy let him know that lunch was lunch or dinner. He unplugged the drill because the drill was old. And later on that evening, Kathy was laying on the bed in the bedroom. I think she's reading possibly, and she heard the drill go off. Well, she thought Jim could have been basically making fun of her because she told him about the ghost. So she, after the drill kept revving up, she stood up and went outside, out into the hallway to see what was going on. Nobody was there. And the occurrences kept going on. There was an issue with like a bell that was being rung. Kathy would hear like change being dropped into a change bowl, and Kathy also felt like somebody tug at her blouse. And it was at that point they enlisted the aid of like a researcher, a paranormal specialist, I guess. Yeah. And the paranormal specialist thinks that there could be a poltergeist and everything. And then the basically the video ends with it being announced that Kathy and Jim, that they moved out of the house. Me. Now here's my opinion, and that's what it is. It's opinion. I'm not saying my opinion is fact. It's just how I feel. I feel that this case is a fraud. I think it was I think that Jim and Kathy Tatum, they basically, had this house built. They bought the land most likely that the house sat on, and they realized that possibly with the income, because they were both retired. I think that they realized that based on what their income was with the retirement and everything, they could not afford the house, the property, and all the little bills that come associated with that sort of stuff. So they decided that they had to move out, but they probably couldn't just move out because maybe they had some sort of deal or whatever the hell, yeah. Or maybe they just did not have enough money to actually move out and find a new home. So here's what I think happened. I think that they concocted the story of the ghost. They concocted it, and they started shopping around trying to find somebody who would be gullible enough to basically, to believe them. And they found out, hey, there's a show that just started up. They deal with the unknown. It's called Unsolved Mysteries. We'll tell them our story. They told Unsolved Mysteries their story, and they probably got a little bit of money from Unsolved Mysteries, enough to help them stay afloat. They were finally able to sell the house, and then they actually moved down to Florida, I think it said. That's just my theory. That's my theory. And if you agree with it, hey, that's cool. If not, that's okay also. But I just do not believe it. They were trying to say, well, there's a couple battles that happened like during the Civil War, I think they said it was. One battle was way over there, and then another battle was way over there, and the ghosts at their, that the ghosts and everything are at the house. And I'm like, I just can't believe that. They're literally making it sound like, well, ghosts are not bound, they do not have like a boundary. Well, if that's the case, let's say that there is a high school. God, I think it's like 6, 8, 9 blocks. However far, it's pretty close where I live, but it's a few blocks away. You're telling me, going by this logic, let's say that we had a school shooting, for example, and 5, 10, 15, 20 of the students were killed. You're telling me that because it happened way, 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 way over there, that the ghosts are now going to be over here in my apartment? I just cannot believe that. I cannot believe that at all. But anyway, pros and cons. The pros, ladies and gentlemen, if anything, it was very atmospheric. They did a good job telling this story. They actually made, people believe that this haunting could have been happening. They told an interesting story, if you believe it. Me, I do not. Let's see here. On a professional level, the case is well produced. I was trying to remember why I put that down. It's well produced. It does, they make it seem credible, but me, I just can't. I cannot believe it at all. And then the cons, they tried too hard to convince people. They just went way overboard. Like, and I just can't believe it. I cannot buy into it. And the whole, well, they had a battle that happened way over here and a battle that happened way over there. No, no, I'm sorry. Going by that logic, somebody who hung themselves in the suicide forest in Japan, that means that their ghost should be able to come here and start haunting me. No, I do not believe that. I think that ghosts are tied to the location where they died. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we close this episode out on a lost heirs case. I present to you the case of Dan Willens. Dan Willens was an old-fashioned prospector. If there was gold out there, the guy was going to locate it. And basically, his area that he liked to explore was Ontario, Canada. Him and a partner got word that a lake, I think it was called Red Lake to the west, I think it was, may have had gold. So Dan and his partner spent like a couple months traveling over there. You got to remember, this was like the early 1900s, so travel was not that easy. They got over there, and after a while of prospecting, they found gold, and from their discovery of gold, a mine opened up. And from the mine opening up, like a community opened up, and everything. It's like, imagine the game The Sims. You do one thing, which leads to a bigger thing, which leads to a bigger thing, which leads to a bigger thing. That's kind of like what happened with Dan Willens. Dan Willens, he ended up becoming a partial, like a partial owner of the mine. But the thing was, management and that sort of stuff did not really interest Dan. He was more into prospecting. He liked to prospect. He went out one day to basically prospect some more, and he was never seen from after that. I think now my theory is that he possibly got injured and he succumbed to the elements. Yeah. But people believe that Dan Mullins actually led a double life, that he was actually a more refined individual. It's reported that he would actually rent out an entire floor of a hotel. I'm guessing like for a week each year or whatever it was. But it's believed that he was actually a refined individual. Another theory is that since he liked to gamble, he was pretty good at gambling, that he may have won a card game, and the people whose money he won did not like losing their money, and they ended up possibly killing him for it. But yeah, so that is the case, Dan Willens. He left behind a rather sizable oh god estate, and they're trying to find the people, descendants who could be related to Dan Willens. This is where Davy Willens comes into the picture, and oh my god, I have my own opinion of this guy. If you see the video, you'll know what I'm talking about. They introduced Davy Willens, and he just comes off as a very greedy person. And I can't recall exactly the whole interview that he gave in the video, but I think he started off by saying something along the lines of, the Canadian government has our money, and if we're turned out to be legitimate heirs to Dan Willens, we would like that money. And I'm thinking, here I am, I'm thinking, because I don't have that much in the way of family members left. I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, motherfucker, you have a new family member. Yes, he passed away, but a new family member you didn't even fucking knew you had until this TV show. And here you are. You came in. You're not interested about the life of Dan Willens or what he did or anything. You're interested about the fucking money. Like, what can you get out of it, you know? And that shit just pissed me the fuck off. It made this guy look like a greedy little shit. But yeah, so due to the lack of there being a body to be able to do like DNA testing, it's actually believed that this case will never be solved. Um, and which is sad, but that's the way it is. Sometimes that there is no body, so you can't really get information. So that basically all they can do is just kind of like judge by pictures. But the thing is, to get the inheritance, there needs to be like I'm guessing like a verifiable DNA link. Yeah. On to the pros and cons. Ooh, I gotta give compliments to producing this case once again. Season one goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Season one goodness. I freaking like it. Everything was done perfectly. I think this was season one. Season one or season two. But anyway, it was done perfectly. Gotta give him credit for that. Con, Davy Willens seemed too greedy. If he did not just rub me the wrong way, I would hope that he was the ancestor. But considering that it seems like money is the only thing this guy cared about, I honestly hope that they never get the answer because I would hate to think that Dan Willens, that the only people left for Dan Willens that his family are nothing but a bunch of money grubbing people. It's like really, really, you have a guy, who seemed to lead a very interesting life, and all you can care about is his money, and I just fucking hated that. Okay, everybody, it is now time for the episode review. So basically, here's a summary. We had a total of 6 cases. Those cases being we had the unsolved case of, or the missing persons case of Jeremy Bright. We had the unexplained death of John Martin. We had the wanted case of Leo Koury. We had the missing persons case of Michaela Garrick. Sorry, I was about to say Michaela Garrick. We had the unexplained case of Jim and Kay Tatum. And finally, we had the case of Dan Willens. When it comes to the case types, those case types are we had missing persons. We had 2 missing persons. We had 1 unexplained death, 1 wanted, 1 the unexplained, and finally 1 lost heirs. When it comes to the pros was at the amount of cases. We had 6 cases, which is nice. We had case variety. I would have liked to have seen like a UFO case, but we didn't get one of those. But the variety, we had wanted, we had missing person, we had unexplained death, we had lost heirs, and we had the unexplained. I think wait, did I say a lot? Oh, anyway, that kind of made up for the lack of having a UFO case. The case lengths, given the amount of time that the episode was, the case lengths seem to be pretty fair. Production. It's season 1. What can you really say? Like production was awesome back then. We actually had 3 cases solved. The Garrick case was a heartbreaker. Like I cannot help but think if I was a parent, how much that would kill me if I found out my kid was abducted. And then the mother's resolution to find Jeremy Bright and get the killers to justice, basically. When it comes to cons, we had 3 cases unsolved. Once again, I will say the legitimacy of the Tatum house. I just don't think that it was a ghost. I don't think it was a poltergeist. I think honestly, what it was just I think a married couple got in over their head, which is not unheard of, and they needed to try to find a way out. This episode really stereotyped gay people as being criminals. And then you had Davy Willens being kind of he just seemed greedy. He just seemed like a greedy person. Not really somebody I would want to hang around with. Final thoughts. I give this episode. Final grade of B plus. The case MVP. It was a tie between Jeremy Bright and Michaela Garrick. Both of those cases really made me feel bad about their families. And then the lackluster cases. It was a tie. Tatum House, just basically because I can't find it to be. I can't find it to be legitimate. I'm sorry, I just can't buy it as being legitimate. And then the case of Dan Willens, I like the case of Dan Willens, don't get me wrong. But Davy Willens, he really just dragged that case down. He really just dragged it down. And it was to the point for me, I was kind of like, I hope they don't get it because they just seem to be they were in it only for the money, basically. But that is it. That is the review of this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Up next time, starting in season 1, episode 15, we have the cases lined up, ladies and gentlemen. This episode has 5 cases. However, one of the cases is omitted, and that is the Dave Davis case. It was originally covered in season 1, episode 1. So some of the cases we have, and a lot of these cases I don't remember that much of, so I'm going to do some research throughout the upcoming days. So we have the case of Francis Murphy. From the looks of it, I think he's looking for his sister Margaret Murphy. We have the case of Dorothy Allison. Dorothy Allison was a psychic who helped solve some cases, on Unsolved Mysteries. I can't recall anything about Sylvia K. Wemhoff. I'm going to look that one up also. And then the same thing about Mickey Joe West. I can't really recall anything about that one. Is this I may be thinking of a different case, but isn't Mickey Joe West the case where Mickey was like in an accident, if I remember correctly, and they think she had like a concussion or something, but it showed her literally standing like in an empty field in the darkness after the wreck happened, and people saw her just kind of standing out there. Then she turned around and walked away. I'm not sure if that's the same case I'm thinking of, though. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have enjoyed this episode of Unsolved Mysteries and these cases that I covered. I cannot wait to get into the next episode. So I'm going to do the preview hopefully tomorrow. And then over the next few weeks, I'll be covering each of these cases. And that is about it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to back on out, and I will see you next time. My name is Jeff, a.k.a. GCurse. Wish you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.